So you've worked hard to create a pension fund and you want to avoid the most common mistakes so you don't sabotage your own retirement. Well, creating a successful retirement plan is much like embarking on a very long journey with an ever-changing route and directions. It requires preparation, it requires foresight and a keen awareness of the potential pitfalls along the way. Now, unfortunately, many of my clients fall into the same similar pattern that threatens to sabotage their own financial security and overall well-being in retirement. So here in this video, I'm going to spotlight the top 9 retirement planning mistakes to avoid with a focus on the UK, but these can be applicable wherever you're watching in the world. Welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time, a very warm welcome to the Economies channel, where together we're going to be learning the language of money and wealth. We're also dedicated to money mastery and making financial wisdom available to all. Now I'm going to pop up our usual disclaimer to say that this video is for education and entertainment purposes only, and it shouldn't be misconstrued or misunderstood as offering financial advice. So here in summary and in no particular order are the top 9 mistakes that I discuss with my clients on an all too often basis. So number 1, starting too late in life, not having a plan, not accounting for the long-term effects of inflation, ignoring the effects of fees and charges, succumbing to behavioural and emotional biases, overspending, especially in the early years, misunderstanding your investment risk, misunderstanding your longevity, health and overall well-being, and finally, not completing the necessary death benefit nomination forms. So let's start with number 1, starting too late. Time is the most valuable asset when it comes to retirement planning. And starting too late is like setting sail when the storm is already on the horizon. Now, the power of compounding interest means that even small contributions to your retirement pot can grow significantly over time. Now, the Pensions Policy Institute here in the UK emphasises the importance of early pension contributions, highlighting how starting to save at age 25 rather than at age 35 can almost double your pension pot by the age of 65 and when most people are considering retiring. Now in this chart, which I'm going to put on screen, it basically shows that the person who started saving $100 a month at age 25, assuming a 5% interest rate return, would have $162,000 compared to the person who started later at age 35 who would have just $89,000. That's almost double the fund value. Not having a plan. Well, we love a famous quote on this channel, and Dwight Eisenhower once said, "In preparing for battle, I've always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable." Now, not having a clear retirement plan is a critical mistake. A study by the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA here in the UK, found that those without a retirement plan often had lower savings and were more likely to face financial difficulties in retirement. Now, in a previous video, I talked about the Pension and Lifetime Savings Association, the PLSA, and they've done research which detailed that the magic number to retire on is $43,100 a year for a couple looking for a moderate standard of living. Now, a moderate standard of living includes the following, and I'm going to put this chart on screen as well. £400 a month for the main shop of food, £250 for food outside the home like lunch or takeaways, a 3-year-old car replaced every 7 years, a 2-week, 3-star all-inclusive holiday in the Med and a long weekend in the UK, about £1,500 a year each for clothing, and I'm going to include a link to their research in the description below, or please go back and look at our previous videos on pensions. Now, I'm going to assume that both clients are entitled to the maximum state pension of £11,500 from April 2024. So that means there's going to be an annual shortfall of £20,000 per year, every year, and that's even before we account for the effects of inflation. Well, inflation is the silent thief that erodes the value of your savings and income and your buying power over time. Now, at the time of recording, UK inflation is 4%, and even the Bank of England and the government's target aims for a 2% inflation rate. But even the seemingly small percentage can significantly reduce your purchasing power in retirement. So, not accounting for inflation can lead to a shortfall in your retirement budget. So, let me explain. The average inflation from 1960 to 2022 was 3.8%. So if you have a £50,000 a year salary now, assuming a 4% inflation rate, you're going to need to earn more than £160,000 in 30 years' time to maintain that same purchasing power. So you always need to plan for your retirement savings to grow at a rate that outpaces inflation. And sometimes that means having to take some investment risk. So if you are looking at investment returns, make sure that they are real returns, and that means returns above the rate of inflation. So let's talk about fees and charges. Like a garden overrun with weeds, fees and charges can choke the growth out of your retirement if not carefully managed. Now, fees and charges are necessary, of course, but you need to make sure that you're not overpaying and also getting value for money. Now, many are unaware of the impact that management fees, transaction costs, and all the other charges can have on their pension fund when they come to retire. Now, according to the UK's Money Advice Service, even a 1% annual fee can reduce the pension pot by about 25% over 40 years. That's insane. So it's essential to minimise and to understand these costs where possible. And to demonstrate that, I'm going to pop up a quick chart, and this is actually from the SEC in the States for all our friends who are watching over there. And it basically shows how an investment of $100,000 with a 4% annual return over 20 years, but with fees of 1/4%, 1/2%, and 1%, and what effect that has on the final return. As you can imagine, the lower fees of 1/4% created the higher return of $210,000. The fees of 1/2% produced a lower return naturally of $200,000. And the fees of 1% had the lowest return naturally of $180,000. So what that means is, even though the difference is fairly small between the fees and charges, the difference is $30,000, and this is when the compounding effect of investments can actually work against us. So if you are finding some value in this video so far, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing so we can help us get this word out as far and as wide as possible. So human psychology is not always rational. In fact, it is irrational, it is inconsistent, and these behavioural bias can lead to us making very poor financial decisions. Now, one common bias is the ostrich effect, where individuals avoid facing their financial realities. Now, come on, we've all been there. Another popular bias is confirmation bias, and this is where we only seek information that supports our own decision-making processes. So being aware of these biases and also taking steps to mitigate their influence is crucial for sound financial planning. Now, living beyond your means today can severely impact your quality of life in retirement. Now, the temptation is to indulge in immediate pleasures, and that can be very strong, especially in the early years. I mean, many have been waiting for a long time to get to their retirement. Now, I've heard many excuses along the way, and they all focus on the present instead of a retirement journey which might last for 30 years, but it's essential naturally to find and strike a natural balance. Now, overspending can deplete your savings, leaving you completely unprepared for retirement, especially if there is poor investment returns, especially in the early years. So it's crucial to adopt a lifestyle that will allow you to save adequately for the future, but also whilst enjoying the present, but responsibly. Now, investment risk is a double-edged sword. While it's essential for growing your retirement savings above and beyond the rate of inflation, misunderstanding the risk associated with the different investment vehicles can lead to significant losses. So as we've said in previous videos, diversification is key. However, over diversification can also hurt your returns, and this is what we call in our profession diversification. So maybe that's another word for you to add to the jargon list. So understanding your risk tolerance as well as having a diversified investment portfolio can help you to mitigate some of the risks and some of the volatility over the long term. However, volatility is actually something that should be embraced and not feared. So let me give you an example. If you saw a new iPhone with a 20% discount, you probably wouldn't hesitate too long before you took advantage of that offer. But if the Apple share price was lower by 20%, would you still buy or would you hesitate? Now, by taking an overly cautious approach to your investment may also mean that your fund could run out earlier than expected and earlier than projected. So it's natural to be cautious, especially as you enter retirement. I mean, after all, you want to protect your retirement savings, but being too conservative can also be considered too risky. Now, I'm going to put up a quick chart, and this is from the UBS Global Investment Returns Yearbook 2024. And basically, it looks at the last 123 years of data from 1900 to 2023. Now, the US equity real return, that's above inflation, was 8.4% average per year. And the UK equity return was 7.1% per year. So certainly this provides food for thought about the possibility of tilting your investment portfolio to a higher exposure to global equities. I mean, after all, these are amongst the best companies in the world, run in the most part by highly successful CEOs. So why not have them working for you as part of your retirement plan? So if you want me to record a video about investing and the withdrawal strategies in retirement, please let me know in the comments and I'll be very happy to put one together for you. So finally, one of the most overlooked aspects of retirement planning is your health, your physical health, your mental health, and your financial well-being. Now, the cost of healthcare in retirement can be substantial, especially if you develop chronic conditions or require long-term care. Now, the NHS in the UK provides many healthcare services for free, but there are still significant costs to be associated with private care and some specific treatments which are not covered by the NHS. Moreover, maintaining your physical and mental health can lead to a more active and a more fulfilling retirement. Now, one option would be to have sufficient savings earmarked for this possibility, or perhaps you could look at the correct insurance cover to protect you, so you can spend more of your pension funds on more important things and outsource the cost and of course the risk to somebody else. Now, once we put all this together, it's important to make sure that you nominate a beneficiary for your death benefits of your pension, especially if your circumstances change either through marriage, divorce, or adopting a more modern approach to family life. This is going to give you greater control of how your wishes are met. It will speed up the process so the right people get the right money at the right time. It will also avoid any potential legal disputes. Now, in the vast majority of cases, a pension is outside of the estate for inheritance tax assessment purposes. It also gives you the flexibility to nominate family, friends, or even charities. So just to conclude, avoiding these 9 mistakes requires an informed approach to retirement planning. Now, if you can think of the 10th mistake, please let me know in the comments below. This is all about understanding the challenges and navigating them wisely. Remember, it's never too early nor too late to start planning for retirement, but clearly the earlier the better. Be mindful of these pitfalls and these mistakes and take steps to avoid them. You can assure that in your retirement years, you're going to be looking and feeling like you're starting out instead of finishing up. So if you like what you hear and you like what you see, please consider hitting the like button and giving me a thumbs up. And also subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our valuable weekly content. And finally, this is your channel and your voice. So whether you are planning for retirement or maybe you want to share some of your retirement mistakes and how you resolve them so we can all learn together, please feel free to leave your story in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Thank you for your time and thank you for your patience, and I'll see you all again next week.